Hello and welcome to Talking Ed. I'm Susan Harmon, Jeffco School Board President. We're switching things up today for our Facebook Live event. And instead of the superintendent interviewing guests, I will be interviewing our new superintendent, Tracy Dorland. So after an extensive and thorough search process, the Board of Education approved Tracy's role as superintendent in March of this year. Tracy's career in education spans over 20 years. She started, and she's going to start her new chapter with Jeffco on April 19th, was her official start date. So we want to welcome Tracy, and we are so excited to learn more about you and your vision for Jeffco Public Schools. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Susan. I'm excited to be here and really excited to share more about me and talk about Jeffco today with you.
Great. So let's just jump right in and please share out some great information about yourself. And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start by just sharing a little bit about myself. I am proud to share with you and our community that I actually grew up in Jeffco. I grew up in the southwest part of our district, and I did not attend Jeffco schools because my parents chose a Catholic school experience for me. I'm actually a graduate of Mullen High School, so go Mustangs for those of you who might have a connection to Mullen. But I did grow up in this community, and I'm so grateful for the family that I have here, the friends that I have here, and I still raise my family here. My husband and I live here. We have 2 children who attend Jeffco schools, so I have very much a vested interest in this work and in this in Jeffco and in being part of Jeffco as superintendent. And I'm really excited and honored to be in this seat. As I moved into my professional career after graduating from CU Boulder, I was a teacher in Denver and worked in Denver for about 13 years as a teacher, a reading interventionist, an assistant principal, a literacy coach, central office work around curriculum, educator effectiveness, and really just thoroughly enjoyed my time in Denver Public Schools, learned a lot, and had some incredible mentors. I then moved into the chief academic officer position in Adams 12 5-star schools. And that was an incredible opportunity for me because I was able to learn from a longtime superintendent, Chris Gadowski, who is an incredible mentor and friend to me. And in that work, I was able to support Adams 12 with some improvement in results in literacy for students and student achievement in that arena. I also was able to support Adams 12 in taking schools who are in priority improvement status and really low performing and move them out of that status and really see some great and tremendous growth for students. So I'm proud of that work. I also had great opportunity there to support an effort at implementation of a large bond initiative, the build out of a strategic plan. And I really do think that all of those experiences are what led me to feel like I was the right fit for Jeffco when the position opened, and did a lot of reflecting and thinking about this role. And really, when I made the decision to apply, it was because I did feel like my skill set could benefit my very own community. And I felt like if I got the job, I would be coming home. And here I am. And I do feel like I'm at home. So very excited to be here. And thank you to you and the board for this amazing opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's so nice. Each time I talk with you, I learn something else about you. So I'm so glad that we have these ongoing opportunities to allow you to share that information out to our community as well, so they can get to know you like we are as a board. So I understand that in your first week, you were able to visit many of our schools and district facilities. What does that mean to you? And could you just share a little bit with us about that experience?
Yeah, last week was my first week, and I believe I was in 20 schools, and many of our other departments and that support the operations of our district. And it was incredible for me because it was an opportunity to really experience and see the diverse communities that we serve. I was in Conifer, I was in Southwest Littleton, I was in Westminster, I was in Edgewater, and I was everywhere in between. And so it was just really great to see on the ground what's happening in our schools academically, meet staff who support them, with their learning, but also their social emotional needs, and also to see some of the incredible bond work that's going on in construction in our facilities. And so appreciative to our voters for the support of our bond. I was able to be at a ribbon cutting and a groundbreaking last week as well at 2 different sites. So everything from construction to academics was something that I was able to see live and in person last week. And that means a lot to me just as I begin to enter the position to understand what's going on in our district and understand all the vast amount of work that I'm going to need to be supporting as superintendent. It also just honestly, I'll tell you, it meant a lot to me to just talk to our students and our teachers and our principals. I had a 2nd grader tell me when he learned that it was my 3rd day on the job, he said to me, well, Miss Dorland, it's going to get trickier. And I actually just thought that was an incredible comment from one of our students, and he's so right. It is going to be tricky. It is going to be hard. We have big work ahead of us, but getting into schools and being in places like our South Transportation Facility and walking through the offices where our construction teams sitting and talking with our food service employees at our food warehouse, that means a lot to me because it fills my bucket and it reminds me why I get up every morning and come do really hard work for our district. And so I'll make that a regular part of what I do, because I think for all of us to see the work in action is what keeps us going.
So that's great, and the filling our buckets is so important in this work that is challenging but so incredibly rewarding. So, and the voice of the students is always my favorite as well. So it's been about 2 weeks. Besides those great tours and engaging with our communities at our sites, is there anything else that you want to share with us about your first 2 weeks here on the job?
Sure. So in addition to visits to different departments and schools, I have also had the opportunity to have what I would call our briefings on lots of different parts of the work that are in place and active in Jeffco, and having the opportunity to start early at the end of the year instead of at the beginning of next year has really given me a chance to have a head start at understanding important and key initiatives that we have going on. So a couple of those bodies of work include, how are we putting together a meaningful plan for pandemic recovery? And that includes summer learning opportunities and learning opportunities for our students as we move into the fall. It's a conversation I've started to be a part of, and I'm excited to learn more and do more work in that space. I have had a lot of opportunity to learn about our new elementary literacy adoption for reading and writing instruction. I'm in the throes of learning about it and looking forward to helping the team really put that plan in place and make sure that it is implemented in a way that's supportive to our educators so that our students can really see and benefit from the resources that we put in place for them in terms of elementary reading. I have also, been talking with the team about many other things. I've had an update on our capital improvement program, and I have had lots of conversation around just all of the initiatives that are happening across all the different departments, HR, finance. We have spent a lot of time talking about budget, especially as related to sort of the budget for next year. As you know, the board will be talking quite a bit about that in the next 4 weeks here. And so those are the parts and pieces that I've been doing in addition to spending time with teachers, students, and principals and department leads.
So as always, there's just so much going on, and we as a board really appreciated your flexibility and willingness to hit the ground running early, and not a normal transition time for a superintendent, but so grateful that you were able to do that because everything you have just shared and more is going on, and really, really happy to have your leadership in all of those areas. So let's talk a little bit about your leadership experience at Denver Public Schools and Adams 12. You spoke a little bit about that at the beginning, but maybe if you could kind of translate or weave that into your experience now as you move into Jeffco schools and similarities, differences, things like that you've seen so far.
Sure. One of the things I'm really grateful for in terms of the experiences I've had prior to coming to Jeffco is that the experience for me has been broad and vast across all aspects of a district. And so while I have probably the deepest background in academics and teaching and learning, professional development for teachers and that kind of body of work. I also have had incredible experiences working with and learning from strong leaders in operations, in IT, in human resources and finance, and all of the other components of a district that are fundamental aspects of the student experience and the family experience, and frankly, the staff experience. And so, you know, while we need to focus on academics, and that needs to be the core primary focus of our work, there are many things about an organization of our size that have to be tended to, taken care of, have vision around. And I'm grateful for the opportunity both in Denver and Adams 12 to have that broad spectrum of experience that can hopefully help me come into Jeffco and manage what is a very large organization with lots of different challenges and opportunities.
Great. So what do you see as some of the major challenges here in Jeffco, and what are you considering in terms of your approach to some of those things?
Yeah, so there were three things that I believe I talked to the board about in my interview that are on my mind right now, and I'm going to reserve the right to add to that list as I learn more, because it is only my second week. I'm sure there are other things that I'll be thinking about and talking with you all and our community and our staff about as I learn more about our district. But the three areas that are on my mind right now, the first one, as I mentioned before, is pandemic recovery. We have just been through what is the most challenging 18 months for all of us, and especially for our students. This has been a hard time, a time of back and forth, a time of uncertainty, and I'm proud of how our community has responded and supported our students. And at the same time, we have to acknowledge that it's been a challenge, and we have to do everything we can to get back to as close to normal as possible next year. And in doing so, I really feel strongly that we have to celebrate our students and think critically about what are their needs, given the experience they've just had, which has been a challenge, and how do we support them with those needs when we come back in the fall. And so that's work that's important to me, and I want us to really focus on coming up here. The second part of that would be, the second thing that's on my mind is, how do we really begin to understand what are all of our resources? How are they allocated currently? Is that the most efficient way to allocate our resources? And with the influx of federal stimulus funds, what's the priority for that in support of our students in our community? And so I'm really interested in having a short-term and a longer-term conversation about resource efficiency and alignment to our strategy in support of increased academic achievement, as well as social emotional needs of our students. And then the third component that's on my mind is, it's a big picture kind of question around, as a district, how do we find the just right balance of system coherence and school-based autonomy? And as I mentioned before, we have a really broad and diverse district that we serve. It was really evident to me as I visited schools that they have unique needs and unique communities. And at the same time, we have to be efficient in how we do work for kids so that we have equity in regard to the student experience and the teacher experience. And also so that we provide flexibility where flexibility is needed for the uniqueness in the individual communities. And so getting that just right balance between what are we as a system? Who are we as Jeffco? And then where do we provide the flexibilities for individual schools to also have their own identity with their unique community? That's a big question in my mind right now, and something I want us to talk quite a bit about.
Right, and just the size of Jeffco and the unique challenges that you've just touched on in terms of that systemic approach is a different lens or a different view when you're addressing the size of Jeffco in terms of just geographically as well as the diverse population. So that is important work, and glad to hear that focus of yours. And I know we've talked a lot about just where we are, knowing that you've only been here for a few short weeks. Hate to put you on the spot, but is there anything else just in terms of a short-term goal that's important to you as we are transitioning out of this school year and into the summertime?
Yeah, I want to just go back to budget. I want our Board of Education to approve a budget that they're proud of, and that we can all say this budget going into the 21-22 school year is in support of students and the year ahead. And the year ahead, in my mind, is incredibly important because it is the year where I'm hopeful we can get back to more normal and recover from, the challenges that we've had from the pandemic. And so I'm spending a lot of time thinking about how we put together a really strong budget for our board to consider and hopefully approve in the next, few weeks here. It's a big part of a short-term goal for me.
Great. And then obviously the span of the contract that we've entered into with you, if you would just touch on maybe some longer term goals that you
Sure.
see for the district.
Yeah. So again, I want to try to find that balance between being a system and allowing the flexibility at the school level. I also know, based on the leadership profile that emerged from the process that the board ran to select me as the superintendent, that there is a hunger and a desire from our community, our staff, our students, and our parents to talk about equity and to begin to identify areas where our practices might not be aligned to equity, and areas where we have strength and successes in the arena of equity, and how do we really in Jeffco begin to move a concrete equity agenda forward. That's something that's important to me. And then finally, I would say that a good friend of mine once told me that culture will eat strategy for lunch every day. And I believe that if you want a positive, collaborative, productive culture in an organization, it's something that you need to focus on and have intentionality around. So something long-term for me is to really feed our system so that we have a positive culture that's inclusive, that's equitable, that's collaborative, so that families, students, and staff are proud to be here and want to be here and feel like they're getting the best educational and work experience possible.
That's great. And ironically, I just heard that exact same quote and concept from some of our great leaders in our buildings. So thank you for sharing that again. I know that the topic of the day, in addition to everything else we've already covered, that we can't leave here without discussing, is the thoughts and directions regarding back to school in the fall of 2021. If you would just share some of your thoughts on that, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks, Susan. That's a great question. I mentioned before that my hope is with the vaccinations, we're able to get back to a more normal year next year. And we are sending out today in our community update a message that secondary schools 6 through 12 will be back 5 days a week next year. I'm proud to send that message. It's important to me. And I just have a commitment to making sure our students have a year next year that's less interrupted and more normal, so that they get not only the academic experience that they need, but also the celebrations, the activities, the athletics that keep so many of them going. And so I did sign on to a letter from several superintendents to the Colorado Department of Public Health this week, advocating for adjustments to our quarantine guidelines in the state of Colorado. And we gave the state of Colorado some ideas about other states that we've researched who are doing things a little bit differently. And we believe that those methods and those guidelines in these other states are more supportive of in-person learning. And so I will continue to advocate for our families and students who want to be in person, so that hopefully this spring and next fall is, as I stated, a more positive and less interrupted experience for our Jeffco community.
Great. I know people will be happy to hear that, addressing the much needed celebrations and reconnection as we end this year, and then the reconnection again and the beginning of a new year for all of us. So it's been a pleasure walking through this conversation with you and getting to know you even more through the selection process, and as we begin our work together with you as a school board and your connection to our community. I know that that this is just the beginning, and we are just thrilled so far. And it's only been 2 weeks, but it already seems like we've accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. So thank you for the work you've already done, and really looking forward to our partnership as we move forward, and continuing to keep Jeffco Public Schools moving forward and ensuring the equitable access and exceptional outcomes for our students, to meet their diverse needs and ensure that their dynamic personalities are honored, and that the engagement continues as we move into 21st century learners together. So in closing, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I'm so happy to be here and appreciate the warm welcome from you and so many others.
Great.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.